The Postmaster, by Rabindranath Tagore.
As soon as he started his job, the postmaster had to come to the village of Ulipur. The village is very small. There is an indigo factory nearby, so the sahib of the factory made considerable efforts to establish this new post office. Our postmaster is a boy from Kolkata. Just as a fish taken out of water struggles on land, the postmaster finds himself in a similar predicament in this remote village. His office is in a dark thatched hut. Nearby, there is a stagnant pond surrounded by dense undergrowth. The employees of the factory, such as the Gomasta overseer, are very busy and not suitable companions for a gentleman. Especially, a boy from Kolkata does not know how to socialize properly. When he goes to an unfamiliar place, he is either arrogant or awkward. For this reason, he does not mix well with the local people. Yet, he does not have much work at hand. Sometimes he tries to write a poem or two. In these, he expresses such feelings as if his days pass happily watching the rustling leaves and the clouds in the sky, but the omniscient knows, if some genie from an Arabian tale were to come and in one night cut down all these trees with their branches and leaves, pave the roads, and build rows of tall buildings that block the sky and clouds from view, this half-dead gentleman might gain a new lease on life. The postmaster's salary was very meager. He had to cook for himself, and a parentless orphan girl from the village did his chores in exchange for her meals. The girl's name was Ratan, and she was about 12 or 13 years old. There was little prospect of her getting married. In the evenings, when smoke spiraled up from the village cowsheds, crickets chirped in the bushes, and the intoxicated local minstrel group played their drums and cymbals and sang loudly in the distance, when the poet's heart would slightly tremble while sitting alone in the dark veranda watching the rustling trees, the postmaster would light a dim lamp in the corner of the room and call, "Ratan." Ratan would sit by the door, waiting for this call, but she wouldn't come inside immediately. She would say, "What is it, Babu? Why are you calling me?" "Postmaster, what are you doing?" "Ratan, I have to go light the stove in the kitchen now." "Postmaster, your kitchen work can wait. First, prepare some tobacco for me." Soon, Ratan would enter, puffing her cheeks and blowing into the hookah. Taking the hookah from her hands, the postmaster would ask, "Ratan, do you remember your mother?" That was a long story. Some memories she had, some she didn't. Her father loved her more than her mother did, and she remembered him a little. Her father would come home in the evening after a hard day's work, and among those evenings, a few stood out clearly in her memory. As they talked, Ratan would gradually sit on the ground near the postmaster's feet. She remembered she had a younger brother. On a rainy day long ago, the two of them had played at fishing with a broken tree branch by a pond. That memory surfaced more vividly than many more serious events. As they conversed in this manner, it would sometimes get quite late, and the postmaster would feel too lazy to cook. They would eat the leftovers from the morning, and Ratan would quickly light the stove and cook a few rotis. That would suffice for both of their dinners. On some evenings, sitting on the wooden bench in the corner of that large thatched office, the postmaster would talk about his home, his younger brother, mother, and elder sister, those dear ones for whom his heart ached as he sat alone in his distant abode. He shared with this uneducated little girl the thoughts that always came to his mind but which he could never mention to the overseers of the indigo factory. It did not seem inappropriate at all. Eventually, during their conversations, the girl began to refer to his family members as mother, sister, and brother, as if she knew them intimately. She even etched their imaginary images in her small heart. One day, during the rainy season, in the early afternoon when the clouds had cleared, a gentle warm breeze was blowing. The smell of wet grass and trees rose in the air, making it feel as if the warm breath of the tired earth was touching the skin. Somewhere, an insistent bird repeated its mournful tune all afternoon as if pleading its case before nature. The postmaster had no work at hand. He was watching the smooth, rain-washed, glistening foliage and the defeated remnants of rain clouds piled up in the sky, thinking that this was indeed a sight to behold. He thought how nice it would be to have someone dear and close to his heart nearby at such a time, a figure of affection intertwined with his soul. Gradually, he felt that the bird was repeating this very sentiment, and the meaning of the rustling leaves in this deserted, tree-shaded afternoon was somewhat similar. No one would believe or know it, but in the deep silence of a long holiday afternoon, such thoughts would arise in the mind of a lowly sub-postmaster of a small village. The postmaster sighed deeply and called, "Rattan." Rattan was then sitting under the guava tree, eating raw guavas. Hearing her master's voice, she immediately rushed over and, panting, asked, "Dada Babu, did you call me?" The postmaster said, "I will teach you to read bit by bit." And so, he spent the entire afternoon teaching her the basics of the Bengali alphabet. In a short time, she had progressed to the combined letters. In the month of Shravan, the rain seemed endless. Canals, ponds, and streams filled with water. The sound of frogs and the patter of rain continued day and night. The village roads became almost impassable. People had to use boats to go to the market. One morning, it had been raining heavily since early on. The postmaster's little student had been waiting by the door for a long time, but not hearing the usual call as regularly as other days, she slowly entered the room with her alphabet book in hand. She saw that the postmaster was lying on his cot. Thinking he was resting, she quietly attempted to leave the room again. Suddenly she heard, "Rattan." She quickly returned and asked, "Dada Babu, were you sleeping?" The postmaster, in a weak voice, said, "I'm not feeling well, come, feel my forehead." In this utterly lonely place, in the dense rain, the sick body longs for a bit of care. The touch of a soft hand adorned with bangles on a fevered forehead comes to mind. In this remote place, during his suffering, he yearned to feel his mother and sister sitting by his side, and in this instance, the desire of the lonely heart was not unfulfilled. The girl Rattan ceased to be a child. At that moment, she assumed the role of a mother, brought a doctor, gave him medicine on time, stayed up all night by his bedside, cooked his meals, and asked repeatedly, "Dada Babu, are you feeling a little better?" After many days, the postmaster, still weak, got up from his sickbed and resolved that no more, he had to transfer from here somehow. Citing the local unhealthiness, he immediately applied to his superiors in Kolkata for a transfer. Having finished caring for the postmaster during his illness, Rattan resumed her usual spot outside the door. However, she was no longer called as before. Occasionally, she peeked in to see the postmaster sitting very distractedly on the bench or lying on his cot. While Rattan waited outside, hoping to be summoned, the postmaster anxiously awaited a response to his transfer application. The girl sat by the door, repeatedly reciting her old lessons. She feared that if she were suddenly called, she might mix up all her combined letters. Finally, one evening about a week later, she was called. With a pounding heart, Ratan entered the room and asked, "Dada Babu, did you call me?" The postmaster said, "Ratan, I'm leaving tomorrow." Ratan, "Where are you going, Dada Babu?" Postmaster, "I'm going home." Ratan, "When will you come back?" Postmaster, "I won't come back." Ratan didn't ask any more questions. The postmaster himself explained that he had applied for a transfer, but it had been denied, therefore, he had resigned from his job and was going home. After that, neither of them spoke for a long time. The lamp flickered dimly, and in one spot, rainwater dripped through a hole in the roof onto a clay pot. After a while, Ratan slowly got up and went to the kitchen to make bread. She didn't move as quickly as she usually did. Perhaps many thoughts crossed her mind during this time. When the postmaster had finished eating, the girl asked him, "Dada Babu, will you take me with you to your home?" The postmaster smiled and said, "How can that be?" He didn't feel it necessary to explain to the girl why this was impossible. All night long, in her dreams and wakefulness, the sound of the postmaster's voice, with its laughter, echoed in Ratan's ears. How can that be? Waking up in the morning, the postmaster saw that his bathwater was ready. According to his habit from Kolkata, he bathed in drawn water. Ratan had not asked him when he would be leaving, but anticipating he might need it in the morning, she had fetched his bathwater from the river the previous night. After his bath, Ratan was called. She entered the room silently and, waiting for orders, looked once at her master's face. The master said, "Ratan, I will tell the person who will take my place to take care of you just like I did. You don't have to worry because I'm leaving." There is no doubt that these words came from a very affectionate and tender heart, but who can understand a woman's heart? Ratan had silently endured many scoldings from her master over the days, but she couldn't bear these kind words. With an overwhelmed heart, she cried out, "No, no, you don't have to tell anyone anything. I don't want to stay." The postmaster had never seen Ratan behave this way, so he was astonished. The new postmaster arrived. After handing over all the responsibilities, the old postmaster prepared to leave. Before departing, he called Ratan and said, "Ratan, I could never give you anything. Today, as I'm leaving, I'm giving you something that will last you a few days." He took out the money he had received as salary, except for some travel expenses. Then, Ratan fell to the ground, clutching his feet, and said, "Dada Babu, I beg you, you don't need to give me anything. I beg you, don't worry about me," and with that, she ran away. The former postmaster sighed, hung his carpet bag over his shoulder, took an umbrella, and slowly walked towards the boat, placing the tin trunk with blue and white stripes on the porter's head. When he boarded the boat and it set off, the swollen river from the monsoon rains shimmered around like the overflowing tears of the earth. At that moment, he felt a deep pain in his heart, as if the sorrowful face of a simple village girl was expressing an immense, unspoken grief of the entire world. For a moment, he desperately wanted to turn back and take the orphaned girl, who was abandoned by the world, with him. But by then, the wind had caught the sails, the current of the river was flowing swiftly, and the cremation ground along the riverbank came into view. In the melancholic heart of the traveler drifting on the river, the realization dawned. That life is full of such separations and deaths. What use is it to turn back? In this world, who truly belongs to whom? But no such realization dawned in Ratan's mind. She wandered around the post office building, weeping constantly. Perhaps a faint hope lingered in her heart that Dada Babu might return. She was so bound by that hope that she couldn't bear to go far. Alas, the human heart is so naive. Delusions never fully dissipate, the dictates of logic take a long time to penetrate the mind, and even in the face of overwhelming evidence, one clings desperately to false hope. Eventually, that hope drains all the blood from the heart and flees, leaving the person to finally wake up to reality. But then, the mind becomes eager to fall into another delusion once again.